In the first episode of Master Hacks, we're going to hack migration and turn it into a masterpiece. Hi, welcome to the first episode of Master Hacks. My name is Patrick, and I'm a solutions advisor here at ShareGate. We've helped many companies over the years with their migration projects, and based on the countless migration operations we've seen, we know it's not just about moving data from point A to point B. There's so much more to Microsoft 365 migrations than just a simple lift and shift. A migration is always an opportunity to improve your environment and to just make things better. It's really important to dig into your strategy from planning all the way to end user training, find the best ways to optimize to make the most out of your Microsoft 365 environment, especially as you prepare for AI tools such as Copilot. Today we're going to dig into the first steps, starting with what is likely the most important one, planning. Planning isn't just about having a game plan to move your data from point A to point B, but also about analyzing your source environment, taking inventory, and setting the right priorities. Let's dig in. When planning your migration, you should consider the following points. 1. Determine your objectives or your leadership's objectives and align with them. Is the goal to reduce the size of your environment for cost-saving purposes? Is it consolidation to reduce sprawl? Or is the goal to move towards a more collaboration-focused approach with teams and M365 users? 2. Define your priorities or align with your leadership's existing ones. This helps set up the right order of operations and make sure all priorities are respected. For example, your leadership's priority is to move content from a source team to the destination, but they're not worried about the team's post history. It'll likely be faster to focus on the content alone without thinking about migrating the team itself. 3. Establish a clear picture of your source environment and the scope of your project. It's important to know what will or should be included in the migration, as well as taking inventory of your content through the use of proper reporting. It's also important to perform test migrations to understand some of the challenges you might face before jumping blindly into the final operation. 4. Define success metrics that align with your goals. Defining the right parameters and metrics is essential in understanding how to measure the success of your project. If your goal is cost saving, but you only measure the number of files migrated without looking at the total size, you don't really know how successful your project really is. Now, let's take a look at inventory. You want to evaluate your source environment properly, assess the state of your content, and create a detailed inventory. When evaluating your source environment, it's important to look at more parameters than just size of your data, like the number of items, files, folders, structural objects, as well as the complexity of the data itself. Compiling your source's permission structure is also incredibly important to be able to understand who has access to what. Assessing the results of your evaluation properly can help point out any unused sites or teams and prevent you from migrating content that is no longer used or needed. It can also help you understand how to proceed with recreating your permission structure and ensure the right people get the right access in the new destination. Here's a small example of how ShareGate Migrate could help you do this with the source analysis and custom reporting module. Here we have the source analysis report by ShareGate Migrate. Here I have the number of site collections included in the scope that I chose, the number of subsites, workflows, as well as the total size of the data included in all of these sites. I also have here some very useful warnings and errors, as well as just regular messages that will help me understand if there's anything that needs to be fixed, adjusted, or simply changed before the migration itself. One example here is the custom features section. This tells me either of completely deprecated features in SharePoint or potentially of custom built third-party features that do not exist at the destination. These features in this particular case are not supported during the migration process, so this is a warning that tells me that if I want to keep those features, I may have to manually rebuild them or provision them at the destination. You also have some file level information here, like the number of checked out files. Seeing here all the libraries that contain these files allows me to go in and action these checked out files to make sure that they are checked in and migrated properly. Now let's talk priorities. Think of this as your migration GPS. First, lock in your destination. That's your goal. Like mentioned before, you need to establish clear and comprehensive goals for what you want to accomplish. Next, map your route. This is your workload assessment. This is where you ask, what do I need in order to achieve my goal? For example, depending on which migration tool you use, what do you need to provision or create at the destination prior to the migration? Do you need to recreate custom features? Do you need to provision your users in Enter ID? This all needs to be mapped out properly so it's not missed in the execution phase. Another key component of the workload assessment is estimating how long the project could take. This is an incredibly difficult question to answer, as it's not always easy to get an accurate estimate beforehand. With ShareGate Migrate, what we recommend is to find the most average site, library, folder, or whatever your source scope is, and migrate that in a vacuum, meaning with no other operations running around it. This should give you a decent estimate that you can then scale up to the rest of your project. By average, we also mean file number, file structure complexity, versions, list item numbers, the number of metadata to it, as well as just the size. Then the next step is to identify detours along the way. These are your challenges. Some examples could be, do you have an excessively large library that you need to split into multiple libraries at the destination? Do you have list items with lookup values? Or even more challenging, circular lookups? Finally, watch out for speed bumps and shortcuts. These are your risks and opportunities. Risks could include user collaboration or adoption rate, IT turnover, conflicting priorities, and probably many more. Opportunities, though, could include omitting some source content because it's no longer needed, consolidating sites for a simpler destination environment, or even considering concurrent migrations to drastically increase the migration output to meet the right deadlines. Let's recap. First, get your plan sorted out. Validating that your goals and expectations are clear can lead to a smoother migration process and ensures you prioritize the right things and stay on track. Next, take inventory of your source environment and do a proper assessment of your data, workflows, permissions, and everything else. Make sure you have all the reports and information you need. And finally, define your priorities, do a workload assessment, and make sure you address all possible risks and opportunities. As a bonus, here's an extra hack for you. Check out the SharePoint migration checklist for actionable steps in the description below. That's it for this episode of Master Hacks. In the next episode, we'll dive into laying out the strategy and optimizing your migration project to make things run as smoothly as possible.